The last time the OKC Thunder made the playoffs was during the 2019-2020 season when a Chris Paul-led OKC roster unexpectedly battled James Harden's Houston Rockets to a hard-fought 7-game first-round series. And while it was CP3's leadership that took OKC that far, it was actually a then 22-year-old Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who led the team in scoring that regular season in just his second year in the NBA with 19 points per game. Then fast forward to his 4th season with the team, Shai's not only still leading OKC in scoring, but is also close to leading the entire NBA in getting buckets this 2022-2023 season. Currently, Shai's averaging the 3rd most points in the NBA at 31.5 points per game, while posting a solid 50.5% shooting from the field and an even more proficient 92.5% shooting from the free throw line. Prior to this season, only 13 players in NBA history have averaged more than 30 points per game on more than 50% shooting for an entire season. The list includes some of the best to ever play the game, with Michael Jordan and Steph Curry being the only guards to make the cut. But Shai is on pace to be the 3rd guard on the list if he keeps up with his scoring pace, and more importantly, game in and game out, he's starting to look like a superstar type talent who's capable of putting up monster numbers while still maintaining elite efficiency despite also carrying a heavy workload for his team. Cause again, looking at it this season, Shai has finished 1/3 of OKC's offensive possessions with either a shot attempt, a foul drawn, or a turnover. Well, that 33.1 usage rate is currently the 6th highest in the NBA, and yet, Shai is still recording an over-the-top 62.3 true shooting percentage. Again, prior to this season, only 5 guards in history have been able to combine that level of usage and efficiency for the duration of an entire year. As you can see, that's some rare kind of company that Shai's been with this season. But what's even more interesting is that Shai's actually been putting up these historically good numbers in the unlikeliest of ways, to the point that he's actually become quite an anomaly in today's NBA. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and we'll dive into more of that in this video. But one sec, if you guys do enjoy the content, please do me a favor by hitting that like button. It only takes a second of your time, but it will be much appreciated. So let's get to it. The 3-point shot has never been this dangerous of a scoring weapon for lead ball handlers before, and yet, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has actually relied less and less on these outside shots. Well, Shai's currently shooting a decent 35.2% from deep, but is only attempting almost 3 of those outside shots per game, which is also the fewest he's averaged since arriving in OKC. Instead, Shai has shifted his scoring focus to his strengths by zeroing into the paint. While typically, when a guard makes a 7-point leap in his scoring average from one year to the next, just like Shai's been doing, you would either expect to see a jump in either his volume or efficiency from behind the arc. But Shai has been the opposite, as after 3-pointers occupied more than 28% of his shot attempts last season, that number is down big time to 14.5% right now. And after shots in the paint occupied 67.1% of his attempts last year, his paint frequency has increased by more than 10 percentage points to 77.6% this season. Good news is, letting go of the 3-point line has gone quite well for Shai, as the 15.5 points in the paint per game he's averaging actually ranks as the 5th most in the entire NBA. But then look into the top 10 of the list and you'll notice that the only guards included are Shai and Ja Morant. But what's interesting is that Shai isn't someone like Morant who basically can fly, while the other remaining players on the list are either 7-footers, instant lob threats, or special types of athletes. The thing is, Shai is neither of those, but he has instead generated his paint touches by averaging 24.5 drives per game, which is the most in the entire NBA. Well, Shai leading the league in drives isn't really shocking, as he's also done it in the past 2 seasons, but what's really incredible is how he's been so adept at finding his way into the paint despite playing on OKC teams which are actually devoid of floor spacing, as over the past 2 seasons, OKC has ranked as the 2nd worst and worst 3-point shooting team in the league, and although the team has been better this season, OKC still just ranks 18th in terms of outside shooting. Well, as a Thunder fan, I'm aware that OKC actually has some willing shooters who have also been pretty efficient this season, such as Isaiah Joe, JRE, Kenrich Williams, and Aleksej Pokusevski. But the problem is, not even one of those guys are attempting 4 3-point shots per game. Also, Mike Muscala will always be a solid shooting veteran, Josh Giddey has been improving as an outside shooter, and Tre Mann will always be a threat from behind the arc. But given the opportunity to pick their poison, a opposing teams would still mostly pack the paint every time while daring OKC shooters to drain enough 3-point shots. That's cause opponents know that SGA is planning to go downhill each and every time, and they know that OKC's best chance to score rests with him getting into the paint. But knowing that something's coming doesn't mean knowing how it's going to hit you or knowing how to stop it, as a slight misstep from a defender is all that it takes for Shai to get into the lane and to finish at the rim. The problem for defenders is that they're never quite sure if Shai's going to blow past them using his unorthodox pace or if he's going to slither his way into a sneaky underhanded scoop shot. This is where SGA's offbeat game creates an advantage, as he has one of the best change of pace abilities in the entire NBA. Even the biggest shot blockers are never sure when he'll go up for a shot around the basket. Then add in the fact that he also excels at utilizing his 6'6" frame and 7-foot wingspan to get the ball airborne even before defenders can bother him, and you'll actually understand why this guy's so good at scoring in the paint despite lacking an explosive bounce. Here, watch how Shai isolates against the huge but quick Bol. He attacks the lane, and once he's near the basket, you can see him use that length and body contortion ability as he makes the tough finish. Then here, as Shai gets the ball at the corner, watch him attack Rudy Gobert's closeout. He's met by Karl Anthony Towns in the paint, but watch him with a sudden stop as he bravely goes up and finishes against the big man. But even in some rare instances, when a defender somehow manages to keep him away from the rim, Shai can simply stop on a dime and rise up for a floater or a mid-range jumper, as he's also shooting a solid 55.8% from within 10 to 14 feet of the basket on more than 4 attempts per game, which is actually the third best mark among all 28 players who are currently attempting at least 2 mid-range shots per game this season. This proves that although an uncontested shot around the paint does not exist for Shai, defenders simply have very little options when it comes to staying in front of him. Here you can see Shai taking on his defender one-on-one. He attacks all the way to the paint, but upon seeing the help about to come, he goes for the quick up fake before rising up for the mid-range fadeaway shot. Then here, against Tyler Herro, Shai quickly loads up on his drive, but before running out of space, he forcefully stops and drains the easy 10-foot floater. But despite his superior driving ability, Shai isn't likely to force the issue either. He's actually very good at surveying the floor, and combining that with his tremendous scoring gravity on the interior actually allows him to generate a lot of clean looks for open teammates from behind the arc. This is why he also currently ranks 4th in the NBA in total 3-point field goals assisted, only behind Tyrese Haliburton, Luka Doncic, and Domantas Sabonis. Here, watch how Miami's zone tries to neutralize Shai's attack. They actually ran a wall in front of him, but on the weak side, you can see Bazley setting a flare screen for J-Dub. Shai finds the opening, and J-Dub hits the 3-pointer against the late contest. Then here, Shai uses his speed to probe his man while driving, but watch him with a quick behind the back, which freezes the entire Clippers defense in the paint. Shai reads the floor and kicks it out to Tre Mann for the wide open corner 3-pointer. This is the kind of pressure that defenses undergo just to prevent Shai from getting deep into the lane, simply because it's really hard to contest his shot in the paint without fouling, which is why SGA is also currently attempting 10.3 free throws per game, ranking as the 4th most in the NBA, while also shooting 92.5% out of those free throw attempts, which is also the 3rd best mark in the entire league. This is why letting go of the 3-point shot this season don't seem to matter for him, as Shai's increased frequency from the foul line and efficiency from the paint have practically made up for it. And I think the good thing is, the increased 2-point shot volume also allows Shai to build some rhythm during the game in those spots we're in. He really loves to shoot during crunch time, cause when you come to think of it, teams usually deploy their shot creators into manufacturing those mid-range looks during game-winning situations, but for Shai, the mid-range area is already his comfort zone. So rest assured, this will allow him to make even more clutch shots for OKC in the future. But more importantly, right now, Shai's dribble penetration attack is already good enough to be the heart of OKC's scoring attack, as this current Thunder team that only ranks 24th in offensive efficiency has scored 10 more points per 100 possessions with SGA on the floor. This ranks in the 95th percentile in terms of on and off differential in the entire league, meaning Shai's literally the only thing standing in the way of OKC potentially being a bottom 2 offense. But even more encouraging is the fact that a player whom most metrics have graded as a negative defender in recent years has also actually leveled up on that end, as Shai currently ranks 6th in the NBA with 1.6 steals per game and also 6th in terms of deflections at 3.5 per game. Well, nobody expects Shai to be a lockdown defender right now, but the truth is, he has actually set the tone defensively for this young and gritty OKC team, which currently ranks as the 15th best defense in the NBA. At the end of the day, going from star to superstar is the hardest leap to make in the league, but Shai has done exactly that this season. He isn't just looking like a surefire first-time All-Star, but is also looking like a total All-NBA type of player. And as an OKC fan, it's good to know that the team is starting to look like they have a real path to NBA title contention down the line, thanks to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's quick rise to the NBA's elite. So, do you guys think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander deserves to make an All-NBA team this season? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.